Hello everyone, I'm super excited to be here at Droidcon Italy. It's been the first time I'm here. Every time is bigger and growing, so it's very, very good to see. So today we're here to talk about in-app purchase and best practices. So it's pretty cool subject. In-app purchase has been tricky for a lot of developers. So I'm sure that today we're going to have some fun. But before we jump on it, let me say a couple words about me, about what I do. So my name is Mario. As you can tell, I'm Italian. I've been at Amazon for pretty much a year and a half, and my role is technology evangelist, which apparently has been officially voted as the second most stupid job title ever. Apparently, the #1 is called creative catalyst, and I have no clue what a creative catalyst is. But actually, for technology evangelists, this means that my role is to do this, is to engage with the community of developers, making sure that you guys are fully up to speed with Amazon, our technologies and devices. And before joining Amazon, I've been an Android developer since the early days of Android, creating quite a few apps with discrete success. And I've also been working in collaboration for Google for a few years as a Google developer expert. For Android, of course. And then I've been working in startups as a consultant, and so basically the whole shebang. And then I've been doing a lot of conferences and blah, blah, blah. But at the core, I'm still an Android developer, and day by day, I still do lots of coding. But today, we're not here really to discuss about coding. There are a bunch of talks that you can follow today. Today, we're here to discuss about revenue and monetization. And in particular, we're talking about freemium apps and games. So there is a question that I always get from developers, which is, how can I optimize the revenue coming from my apps? How can I get as good as the top 50 apps and games developers? How can I be a pro in in-app purchase? So being a pro is, well, it's not easy, as you will see today, but there are a few learnings that we can take from the top 50 developers. And the first important learning is to take care of your best customers. And what I mean with best customers. So when it comes to revenue, if you ask me, it's not a big surprise that the first industry to define names for the big spenders has been the gambling industry, so casinos. Surprise, surprise, big spenders there. So the casinos started thinking about how can we group the big spenders in a way that we can then understand how we can engage with them. So, and the interesting bit is that this industry started using terms from the sea life. So the first one are called the minnows. So the minnows are the small spenders, are the one that we can also call freeloaders. So this usually accounts for 90 up to 98% of your users, and these people are the one that will barely spend any money. So usually they don't spend any money, or if they spend a few dollars per year. Then there are the dolphins. The dolphins are the average spenders. These are usually accountable for 50% of your revenue. So they're not small spenders, but they're not consistent spenders. And then there is the real important bit, which are called the whales. The whales are a small percentage of your paying users. So we are talking about an incredible small amount of your total of users. We're talking about less than 0.1% of the total of your users. But why are these people important? These people are important because they're making actually up to an enormous chunk of your revenue. There are apps that are actually getting up to 80% of the revenue just from these 0.1% of spenders. So these are the vital few. These are the people that we can really engage with if we want to make consistent revenue. But when it comes to Amazon, we don't really like to use these terms. Like, it's not very customer focus to call someone a minnow or a dolphin, right? That doesn't sound great. So we have another term, which is power user. It's actually a pretty common term in the mobile industry. And actually, power users are not new. There's evidence of power users across a variety of industry. Sports is a classic one. And mobile, of course, is not the first industry to recognize the importance of this vital field. So what they look like, and in particular, how much money are these guys actually spending? And where are they spending this money? So the important bit to understand around power users is that these people is spending money on things they love. They spend money where there is an emotional connection to the content. But how much money are they spending? So what they look like to us. So we did an analysis on power users, and even internally at Amazon, we had to define what a power user looks like. So we define a threshold, and we call a power user if you spend more than $50 per month. And you must think, you know, like $50 per month, that's not bad, right? Like having users which consistently spend this money, it's not bad. But actually, the interesting part, when it comes to Amazon and App Store, we've seen that the average spend for the power users is more than $200. And if you ask me, the important word here is average. This means that there are power users which are consistently spending thousands of dollars per month in in-app content. So why are they spending this money, and where can we find these power users? So even though we have evidence of power users being pretty much everywhere in the whole of the more 200 countries where App Store is available, we saw clusters of these power users in the US, Japan, United Kingdom, and Germany. So if you are thinking about engaging with these power users, probably these are the countries where you should focus your attention. So you must think, okay, let's say we have power user which is spending $1,000 per month. You must think, maybe they're spending this money across a variety of apps and games. Maybe they choose a specific genre and spend money across a number of applications. Like, I don't know, maybe tower defense games or... Actually, this is not what's happening. In January, we saw that 80% of customers who spend $1,000 spent 75% more on just 2 apps. So the take-home from this is these power users know exactly what they want. And once they find a connection with the specific content, they are totally okay with pouring money into this content, on this app or game. So how can we foster this propensity to spend? How can we actually take advantage of this connection? So one very good strategy that the top 50 grossing applications are using is to use special offerings and VIP exclusives. So think about that. Think you have a bunch of freeloaders, and then you have the 0.1% of high spenders. When it comes to these people, to the high spenders, you really want them to feel special about your app, about your content. So what about providing content which is exclusive to them? Think about an in-app content. If you're building a game, for example, this could be a special weapon or a special item which you surface only to these big spenders. And they will be glad of this. They will say, oh, you know, I'm the only one that can access this special item. I'm not the average user. I'm special. And actually, we saw very, very high conversions from the people that's doing this. Actually, we'll see in a bit a few data points about this. So make your vital few feel special. That's absolutely important. And understand the connection. Why are they so engaged with your app? And there are a few ways to do this. The classic one is using analytics, is monitor the behavior and even the spending behavior of your users. Try to understand where are users spending money and why are they spending money inside my app. And what they want to do they want to be part of a group or they want to excel? So for example, in a lot of applications, we saw people on day one of the launch of an app or a game get all the in-app items in order to be the best performers already on that specific game. So you get all the unlockables, all the consumables immediately. So you spend a few $100s immediately, you get all the items. So you can be on par with the top gamers or the top spenders. But at the same time, we saw people growing their experience. So do you want to be providing all the items immediately for consume, or do you want to train your users and make them become part of an elected group over time? So the first tip here is take care of your best customers. Recognize the importance of the vital few and reward them as VIPs. The second one is make it easy to buy. So reduce friction. And why so? So actually we did an analysis, and we're going to go a little deeper during the presentation. So this is the behavior of users across time in looking at the hours since download. And this is the data around revenue. So you will notice that between the first 24 hours, there is a huge spike. This means that a big chunk of the value that you can get from a specific user, you're going to get it on the day of launch. Actually, on average, we see that 18% of the total customer value, this is the lifetime value, this is all the revenue that you will ever get from a specific user, comes in the first 24 hours. So the first hours where you launch your game, or in general when your user is engaging with your game, is crucial, is where you want to go big. And we will see a few strategies to do that exactly. So why is it important to engage with your customers early? So the 37% of customers who make a purchase do so on day 0. This means that you need to train your users on the first day on how to make a purchase. And keeping them engaged is also very, very important. 48% of repeat purchases happen within 1 hour of a previous purchase. This means that if you can train your user on perform a purchase, there is a very high chance that you will see a repeat purchase after a bit. And giving them a reason to come back is very important. And always think about the lifetime value of a user. So as we've just seen how important it is to engage on day 1, but actually, after the third order from a specific user, what comes on that one is usually 64% of revenue. And if you get them after 7 days to come back, what happens after the first 7 days? That's 74% of the revenue. And if you manage to get a user to come back after 30 days, after a month, what happens after that is 56% of revenue. So think about that. Think about how important it is to keep your users engaged, to train them on making purchases. Another important bit, and we'll see also how important is the real estate in terms of in-app items, is the selection. So think about how many in-app items you have inside of your app. Actually, we've seen that the more items you provide, the higher the selection is, the higher is the average revenue per paying user. And this is interesting because this is just by the fact that you have multiple items available. So this can get you, if you have between 11 and 15 items, you can get 45% better average revenue per paying user. That's almost half more what you get just by adding more items available. And keep in mind that the small amount of users can make a huge amount of revenue. Regulars is also a good source of spend, and actually, the interesting bit that we discovered is that after 30 days, what you can get in terms of revenue is 60% more. So after 30 days, there is a 60% more propensity to spend. And that's actually pretty obvious if you think about that. If you're playing with the game or engaging with an app, after more, you get trained to playing with them and you want more, you increase in the levels, you increase in consumption, and you want to know more, you want to have more, you want to have more and more. So after 30 days, 60% more, actually. But this is actually another interesting stat, a counterpart to what we've seen before. So even though having multiple items is important, having a lot of price points can actually confuse your users. If you have more than 11 price points, that's actually impacting you because you're confusing your users. We saw almost 50% less revenue if you have too many price points. So this means that if you have, let's say even if you have 100 in-app items, you want to keep fewer price points. So the $0.99, $1.99, and so on. But keep it between, if you can keep it between 1 and 5 price points, well, you can see actually 47% more revenue. And this is easy to do, right? This is just define your catalog. So the big question that we're starting to ask ourselves is, what are the top 50 doing differently? So out of the hundreds of thousands of freemium applications that are out there, why are the top 50 usually always the top 50? What have they understood that we haven't understood? So in order to do this, at Amazon, we conducted what is called a cohort analysis. So basically, a cohort analysis is analyzing a group based on their behavior, right? So is usually around a shared experience, so a specific behavior, and limited in time. So an example of cohort could be people who had measles at age 9, or tall pilots who flew for British Airways in March, or customer who purchased within a week of download. And the one that we actually did was this one in particular. So we look at all the customers who installed a freemium application on a specific date, and then we split the population in 2 groups. The first one is if the upper game is in the top grossing application, in the top 50, and if it's not in the top 50. So the rest, what we call the rest of the market. And analyze customer behavior on these 2 groups. And try to understand what are the trends. What is the top 50 doing that we're not doing, that the rest of us developers are not doing? So the first one, and I think this one will not surprise anyone, is looking at the performance in terms of revenue in days in installation. You will immediately notice that the top 50 are doing a better job of monetizing their users. On day 1, they're actually doing much better than the rest of the market. They're actually performing 50% better than the rest of us. And consistently across the first month, they're doing better, up to 20% better always. So why? Why is this happening? Is just because they have better quality in-app items? Is that the only reason? Is the quality of the in-app items accountable for this difference between the top 50 and the rest of the market? So I think this is probably the most important bit of this presentation, which is the in-app purchase real estate. A space inside your app, and you want to dedicate this space to all the catalog of the in-app item. What is the rest of the market doing? What is the average behavior of developers? Well, you will see here that most of the space, actually up to 60% in total, is dedicated to the lowest performing items, to the $0.99 and $1.99 items. And the assumption here that a lot of developers do is people doesn't want to spend on in-app items. And if they want to spend, they will actually only spend on lower priced items. But actually, the interesting bit is that the revenue that comes from these two chunks of items is actually pretty small compared to the space that is dedicated to these items. It's actually less than 50%. And when it comes to the $199, it's actually a third of what you expect. So dedicating a lot of space to the lower priced items is not paying off. The interesting bit is actually happening on the other side of the range, on the highest performing items. So the $99 item usually get very, very low space from developers. They get 1% of the total space inside of your app in terms of visibility. But they're actually accountable for almost the 10% of revenue. If you combine the $49.99 and the $99.99, actually these in total are accountable for 20% of your revenue. That's a huge chunk of revenue. So let's see what the top 50 are doing. Well, you will see that there is much more balance between the two columns. Actually, the space that the top 50 are dedicating to the lowest performing items is much less than what the rest of the market does. It's actually half of it, almost half of it. But they're doing a much better job in converting them. So the revenue that is coming from these lower performing items is comparable to the space that is dedicated to this. And when it comes to the higher performing items, they're actually dedicating much more space than the rest of the market is doing. So to say it very, very quickly, the take home from this is dedicate more space to the top value items. And this is connected to what we were saying about the power users. Power users have a higher propensity to spend. This means that for them, it's not inconceivable to spend $99.99 or 50 quid on in-app items. But it's important for you to actually showcase these items. If people can't see these in-app items, they won't make a purchase. So try to balance yourself. Try to balance the space that you dedicate to specific in-app items and the amount of revenue that you want coming from these in-app items. So the other tip is keep your customers engaged, maintain a healthy selection, limit the number of price points. So let's have 1 up to 5 price points total, and offer high-value items. Dedicate more space to the top grossing items. Third one is optimizing the experience. So there is a very important bit when it comes to converting your users and the revenue that you can get from these users, which is, as we've seen, is time. How much time are they spending in my app or game? How much they're engaged with what I do? So there are 2 learnings that you need to get. The first one is synchronization. So right now, people is not just using a single device. They're using their phone when they're mobile, then they might use their tablets and even their TV when they're at home to consume content. So you don't want your users to have a different experience based on which device they're using. You want them to have a consistent experience. So synchronization is the absolute lower bar. And the second one is engagement, is sessions and number of sessions. So I'm confident that everyone recognized this screenshot here, is Flappy Bird. I think the Flappy Bird is the perfect example of engagement done right. And why is that? Think about when you're playing a session on Flappy Bird. When you die, you are literally 1 click away from making the next session. And think about all the games that you've been playing recently. How many of them were actually sending you back when you die, sending you back to the main menu? And then you have to click new session, wait for it, and then start a session. So try to reduce the user friction as much as possible. Encourage a longer session and tune usability. When it comes to games, this is absolutely crucial. If your game is too easy, then your user will get bored and stop playing with your game. But if your game is too difficult, well, they cannot beat level 1. How do you expect them to make a purchase to grow their profile, for example? they will just be frustrated and stop playing with your game. So longer sessions are extremely important. And why is that? So I think this is one of the most comforting data points. So what is the difference between the top 50 and the rest of us in terms of user engagement? The thing that I found very, very comforting is that users behave in the exact same way. So on day 0, you have a huge spike, and then consumption goes down. So if you see something like this, it's not that you're doing a bad job. Even King or Rovio are seeing the exact same behavior. So that's great. Customers are behaving in the same way. But actually, if you look at this, on day 30, the top 50 have twice the active users compared to the rest of the market. So even though the behavior is the same, the top 50 are encouraging longer sessions. They have better engagement. They can keep their user inside the app. Twice the time is twice the revenue. Twice the time is twice the time for you to train your users on how to make a purchase. And total time in app is crucial. Actually, the top 50 are doing a much better job than we are. On day 30, the top 50 are usually attesting on the 23 minutes per session. But actually, the rest of the market is on a bare 10 minutes. So these 8 minutes per user might not sound much, but these are 8 minutes more that you can use to train your users, to make them engage with your content, and then therefore to provide more freemium content. Another interesting one. I was honestly surprised when I saw this. So showing clear value of in-app items is paramount. So let's say that we have this. We have 10,000 tips, whatever tips are, and then 200,000 tips, with the $49.99 items compared to the $3.99. So if I'm a user, I have to start thinking, okay, so this is 10,000 tips. If I buy maybe 5 of these, I will have 500,000 tips. Is that better or not than the 200,000 tips? Is that value? What's the value? I have to do the math. I'm confused. I don't know what to do. Actually, the easiest thing you can do is just add a sticker on the in-app items that says, this one is 25% bonus, this is 100% bonus. Just doing this, we saw 75% more average revenue per paying users. This is just by adding an image that says, this is better. Okay, 75% more revenue. The other one, which is highly overlooked by developers, is tutorials. And this doesn't just apply to games. This applies to apps as well. Is explain how to make a purchase. Train your users. So explaining how to make a purchase through a tutorial is very, very important. There are a lot of different ways you can do this. You can do this through in-app credit. A lot of games do this. They give you 1,000 virtual currency and then explain you through the tutorial how to use this credit to make a purchase and use an in-app item. And then, well, if you do this, you boost conversion usually up to 150% compared to if you don't do this. The second step is, okay, great, you have an in-app item. Let me show you how to use the in-app item that you just got. And why is it good to make this purchase? What is the advantage of using this particular consumable? Best example of this is Cut the Rope. Cut the Rope has a fantastic tutorial, explains you if you can't beat a level, you can just use a power-up and you have a step-by-step tutorial that explains you how to beat that level. So if you do this, not just train your users on how to make a purchase, but train them on how to use this purchase. We saw actually for the best one, we saw 65% more repeat purchases. This is because the user sees clearly the value of an in-app item. So the third strategy is optimize the experience. Reduce usage barriers, tune usability, simplify the purchasing choices, and train your users on how to make a purchase and how to use the consumable. guide your user through the purchase and how to use it. Super easy win. Number 4, support social engagement. So I think that this is the absolute baseline here. So everyone likes to tell the world why they're great. Everyone likes to be recognized. So in-app accomplishments that can be done through leaderboards, for example, through achievements, are absolutely important. So must have if you're building a game, for example. This gives your user a lot of different reasons to come back. It could be competing with their friends, or it could be just because they want to beat their high score or get more badges through achievements. So even if you have a very simple game, a single-player game, adding achievements is actually a no-brainer. There are a lot of different ways to do this, but this will give your user a reason to come back. And we just saw how important it is to train your users on come back and spending more time inside your application. So there's not much more about that. Just do this. Just add social engagement. Let the user share their activity, and includes achievements and leaderboards in your app. And the final one is encourage advocacy. So a big assumption that a lot of developers do is, okay, I built a great game, a great app. I'm sure people will love it. I'll just publish it. That's it. You need to engage with your users, not just to run your app. You want to train your users to be advocates of your content. How to do this? The first one is to engage with them through the app itself. So people that are interacted through the app are 4 times as likely to continue using the app 3 months after. So you can do this through notifications. You can do this through messages that comes up inside the app itself. It's important that you continue communicate with your users, that you tell them what's new, that you tell them what is special for them, what is exclusive for them, just for them. 4 times as likely to continue the app 3 months later. Keep in mind what we just seen around the total lifetime value of your users. Celebrate user enthusiasm is also very, very important. So when it comes to games and big brands in particular, a game is not just your game. An app is not just your app. Is everything that gravitates around your app. So, for example, League of Legends have done a fantastic job of allowing everyone to share drawings and images around the characters of the game on their website. And everyone can vote the best one, and they're sending special prizes to the most engaged users. So usually you will see a good overlap between the people that do these kind of things and the power users. So give your power users a way to be celebrated. And think about that. Every time they create a creative, an image, a drawing, a video, a tweet, a social engagement around your content, is not just them being engaged, it's them spreading the words about your content. Let the user extend the experience. Very, very good strategy as well. So Minecraft, perfect example of their open world. Everyone can do whatever they want. Or Trivia Crack. Actually, Trivia Crack, if you think about that, more than a quiz game, is actually a framework for quiz games. Everyone can add their own questions and check the validity of other people's questions. So the creators of Trivia Crack, of course, they added the first questions, but the better engagement actually comes to the crowdsourced content. So if you can, I understand that this is not viable for all situations, but if you can let your users extend the content, let them grow the experience in your app. And the last one is merchandising. Merchandising is very, very important. Think about t-shirts. I see a lot of people wearing Droidcon t-shirts here. Think about when you're going around during the next year, and everyone will see Droidcon Italy there. they will recognize this. Oh, this looks like a cool conference. I want to know more. So you can do the same with your app. And actually, we know that at Amazon, we know that like building merchandising is not for everyone. So that's why we created a service, which is called Merch by Amazon. It's currently available in the US. And basically, you just upload the creatives of your app or games. So let's say the logo of your app or game. And we build T-shirts and other merchandising that goes on sale on Amazon. And you can make revenue out of that. So it's an additional channel of revenue for you, but also can be a great way to build advocates, to spread the word around your content. So it's having great success. If you want to know more, I'm around. So the last bit here is engage with your influencers. Celebrate their expression. Celebrate why they love your app. And this will build even better engagement. Allow user contribution and allow content creation, and offer merchandising if possible. So let's have a quick recap of today. We saw the first bit, recognize the vital few, recognize the best customers. They might be the 0.1% of your users, but they are actually making up a huge chunk of your revenue. Make it easy to buy, reduce friction, take out the complexities of making an in-app purchase, clearly explain value, optimize the experience for your user, train your users on how to use consumables, train your users on why they should be coming back to your game, support social engagement, absolute baseline for games, let your users tell the world why they're great, and finally, encourage advocacy. Build content around your content. Build engagement outside of your app. That's probably one of the best advices you can get. So when it comes to in-app purchase, I'm not here to do a full presentation on how to implement EAP. There are a lot of different ways to do this. If you're interested in knowing more about Amazon in-app purchase and why you should do it, follow this link. This is our developer portal. We share a lot of different content. And this is the documentation on how to get started. Also think about Amazon devices and think about the power users. When users are using an Amazon device, like a Fire tablet, they are already logged in with their Amazon account and with their Amazon credit card. So they're literally one click away from making a purchase. They don't have to add anything. It's just one click away. So you can get it started. If you have any question, I'll be around for the whole 2 days. So please grab me. So that's it. There is a, if I can ask you a favor, there is a QR code here, or you can follow the short link. There is a very quick survey, so you can tell me if you liked this presentation today, if you didn't like it. Hopefully you liked it. And if you fill out the form and leave your email at the end, I will do a raffle and send the winner an Amazon tablet. So that's it for me today. Here's are my contacts. Add me on Twitter, my email. Please don't send spam. If it's interesting stuff, send over. Otherwise, here's my Twitter account. And also, there's the Twitter account for Amazon App Dev, which is Amazon App Store developers. We share a lot of different content. This is our website as well. There's a developer blog, a lot of different content around monetization and around best practices. So that's it. And I think we might have a few minutes for Q&A. So thank you very much, guys.